The cast of Touhou 12 is unique in a way that isn't matched by many other casts in the series. Save for one exception, every character in Touhou 12 has a direct connection to the main plot of the game. There's a certain level of importance that can be felt from everyone. Almost everyone. This installment of Touhou Writing Advice will go over the cast of Touhou UFO, showing their backstories, personalities, abilities, and some interesting tidbits about each character. Oh, and disclaimer before we start, you do not have to interpret these characters in the ways I do. This is mainly me giving suggestions. First, a brief summary of UFO. Following the events of Touhou 11, some yokai have successfully escaped from underground thanks to new geysers. A group of Buddhist yokai band together to rescue their master, Byakuren, from Akai. After successfully rescuing her, Byakuren and her yokai followers settle down in Gensokyo at a Buddhist temple they name Myorin Temple. Now with that out of the way, let's take a look at some of the characters. Save for Yuyuko and maybe Rika, Nazarin is the most fleshed out Stage 1 boss in the series. She's the only one in Windows Touhou to appear after Stage 1 as a mini-boss. This is because Nazarin is a servant to Sho, a high-ranking servant of the god Bishamonten. Unlike other master-servant relationships, the dynamic between Nazarin and Sho often portrays Nazarin as the more serious of the two. This interpretation likely comes from Nazarin retrieving Sho's pagoda after she loses it in Touhou 12. Nazarin hides the fact that Sho lost the pagoda from the other members of the Buddhist group because Sho's embarrassed. Importantly, however, Nazarin still retrieves the pagoda despite Sho's clumsiness because she is loyal to Sho. In fact, she only comes to Myorin Temple when Sho asks for her. Because of this, I like to write Nazarin as being annoyed with Sho when she asks for something silly, but still in the end, unconditionally loyal. Sho is very good at her job, and I like to think that Nazarin is secretly really proud of her. But of course, there's more to Nazarin than just her relationship with Sho. Nazarin was assigned to be Sho's servant directly by Bishamonten, the aforementioned god. Nazarin's dowsing rods let her find treasure and lost objects. It's an ability that several characters desire to take advantage of, such as Reimu and Marissa. Due to being directly assigned by a god and having a highly desired ability, Nazarin can be written to be a bit full of herself. She thinks she's really great because her environment enforces that mentality. But she is a Stage 1 boss. As useful as her ability is, Nazarin is still quite weak. She might run away from a fight when she thinks she can't win. Whether you want to write this as cowardice, wisdom, or something else entirely is up to you. Nevertheless, there's quite a bit more to Nazarin than most Stage 1 bosses in Touhou. Kogasa is the exception to UFO's interconnectivity. She's not related to the plot in any way, and Zune has even described her as a filler boss. Here's the thing about Kogasa though. Not only is she extremely popular, but she's also quite possibly the easiest Touhou character to write. Kogasa's pitch is simple. She needs to scare people in order to have energy, but she can't scare anyone because, well, she's adorable. There's a ton of ways you can write Kogasa. Kogasa is an abandoned umbrella who turned into a spirit. You want to write about an angsty Kogasa who seeks a place to belong? That works. But Kogasa's appearance and inherent silliness also means that writing a happy and adorable Kogasa would also work. Vengeful, funny, sad, cheery, and more. What you want Kogasa to be is up to you. Ichirin is quite an interesting case. Despite having a lot of dialogue thanks to her appearances in the Air Fighters, it's actually a bit hard to discern her personality. This is because, unlike a majority of the Touhou cast, Ichirin's dialogue is written to be pretty mellow, perhaps as a testament to her Buddhist training. But we still do know a few unique things about her. For one, perhaps more than anyone else, she looks up to Byakuren. While Sho serves Bishamonten directly, Ichirin is the one who works with Hijiri in the Air Fighters. In 15.5, we learn that her dream is to be a revered monk, just like Byakuren is. Byakuren is her model of who she wants to be. The other important thing about Ichirin is her relationship with her cloud companion, Unzan. Unzan is a cloud monster she boldly stood up to long ago. and that boldness earned the Cloud's respect and loyalty. So, he decided to follow Ichirin around and protect her. After befriending Unzen, Ichirin was hated by the humans of the past, but she refused to leave him. This path eventually led her to Byakuren. It's a unique friendship between a human and a yokai, though Ichirin herself eventually also became a yokai. In battle, Unzen is generally the main force of attacks rather than Ichirin. Ichirin is more so the strategist of the fights. Even though Unzen is technically the one with all the power, Ichirin's core bravery and loyalty is what drives Unzen to fight. I think a good way to describe Ichirin in one word is bold. Ichirin doesn't back down from a challenge, or hesitate to do what she thinks is right. Lastly, to tie all of this together, perhaps the reason Ichirin looks up to Byakuren so much is because Ichirin represents what Byakuren is trying to achieve. Ichirin was a human who befriended a yokai, and Byakuren seeks to have all humans be like Ichirin. The yokai Murasa used to be the vengeful spirit of a girl who drowned. She used to drown humans all the time, and Byakuren was sent to exterminate her. When Byakuren went to confront Murasa, she came with no defenses. Murasa sank the monk's ship. And Byakuren rose with a new ship, one modeled after the very one Murasa died on. Byakuren gave the ship to Murasa. Moved by Hijiri's appeal to her past and inherent kindness, Murasa joined Hijiri's sect for a much better and more fulfilling life. While Ichirin looks up to Hijiri and shows her Bishamonten, Murasa was personally given a second chance by Byakuren. Because of this, I like to think that Murasa feels the most indebted to Hijiri. She leads the ship's charge into Makai to rescue her in Toho 12, and that same ship eventually becomes the Mioran Temple. After getting her second chance from the ship, Murasa is able to give that second chance back to Byakuren by transforming it into a new temple. In this way, Murasa and Byakuren are both connected. But, like Sho and Nazrin, there's more to Murasa than just her relationship with Byakuren. In combat, Murasa utilizes water-based attacks, owing to her status as a sunken yokai. The closer she is to water, the more powerful she is. Especially in 17.5, a game whose incident involved a ton of water, we can see that Murasa speaks with a confident demeanor. She's excited to do her job, and that enthusiasm manages to carry her across fights she might otherwise stand no chance winning. Whereas Ichirin is bold against the world around her, I think Murasa is instead empowered by the faith she has in herself. The second chance she got from Hijiri certainly did not go to waste. While Nazrin is one of the most developed Stage 1 bosses, Sho is one of the least developed Stage 5 bosses. But there's still a bit of info we can glean. Sho was one of the first yokai Byakuren befriended, although it's unknown when in Byakuren's journey Sho was exactly befriended. While Ichirin wandered in, and Murasa was rescued, Byakuren personally chose Sho to be a disciple of Bishamonten, which speaks heavily of Sho's character. She was described as being the most honest and upright character on the mountain, even before becoming a member of Byakuren's sect. Working with Byakuren, she pretended to be a human when she was around humans. Unfortunately, this disguise and her status as a Buddhist figure prevented her from rescuing Byakuren after Byakuren was sealed away. But she helped rescue Byakuren during the events of Toho 12. Sho appears to be formal from working as a religious figure, but is a bit more stressed behind the scenes. She's often portrayed as clumsy thanks to losing her pagoda in Toho 12, an object with the ability to bring great wealth. I've already talked about her relationship with Nazrin before, but Nazrin is one of the few people who gets to see Sho's less formal side. The other thing to know about Sho? Despite being a key figure in the temple, she's a heavy drinker. Yeah, but despite some clumsiness and personal struggles, Sho does her job exceptionally well and is loved by the people in the temple and outsiders alike. Nue is a trickster. She has the ability to both make herself and objects appear to be unidentified. She was sealed underground from the outside world, but eventually ended up in Gensokyo. In Touhou 12, she disperses pieces of Murasa's ship as a prank, and tests the player as they get closer and closer to Byakuren. When Nue is eventually fought and beaten in Touhou 12's extra stage, she decides to go to Byakuren's temple, since she really has nowhere else to go. Despite her troubles beforehand, Nue does stay at the temple, albeit on the outskirts. While Nue kept up her prankster ways, the temple did give her a sense of duty and purpose. When Touhou 13 happens, she invites her friend Mamizu in order to try and beat Miko. Why? She's scared of what Miko might do to the yokai of Gensokyo. She thinks beating her is what'd be best for yokai. It's the first time in the series where you really see Nue thinking about something beyond herself. But besides plot, what else is there to Nue? Nue is very sensitive about her true form, which lends itself nicely to a lot of story ideas. Her normally carefree demeanor can all come crashing down if someone sees her. There's also her friendship with Mamizu. Despite Mamizu being more formal and having more responsibilities, she doesn't hesitate at all when Nue asks for help. They're both ancient yokai, a Nue and a Tanuki, so they've likely been friends for a long time. A trickster persona, a mysterious past, and a surprising friendship. Nue lends herself to a lot of interesting scenarios. Byakuren has quite a lot to her. First, her backstory. She used to be a Buddhist nun who served alongside her younger brother, Miorin. But, after Miorin died, she began to fear death. Byakuren resorted to using dark magic to prevent herself from dying, straying from her own Buddhist teachings. The magic also makes her very powerful in battle. But, to keep this magic alive, she needed yokai to stay alive to keep power. She selfishly began to preach to yokai in secret in order to save herself. But as she preached, she began to see the struggles the yokai faced, and became a genuine protector. This protection eventually exposed her to humans, and for siding with yokai, Byakuren was locked away in the hellish dimension of Makai for hundreds of years. It's a tale of fear, sadness, tragedy, and in a twisted sort of way, justice. But Byakuren is eventually saved by some of her loyal yokai followers, Nazarin, Ichirin, Murasa, and Sho. Her efforts to convert the yokai not only led to them having better lives, but also to her finally getting free from her prison. She's initially scared of humans when she gets out, but is shocked to see that in Gensokyo, humans and yokai are able to coexist. Byakuren's journey can be framed under two of the four noble truths of Buddhism. The first is suffering. Byakuren's suffering was her imprisonment in Makai. The second truth is the cause of suffering. Byakuren's craving for immortality and initial ignorance to the troubles of yokai can be seen as the root cause of her eventually being sealed away. And that's Byakuren's past. As mentioned before, Murasa's ship ended up transforming into the new temple, where Byakuren runs her religious operations. So, how is Byakuren now? If there's one thing that defines Byakuren, I think it's her emotions. In contrast to her religious rival Miko, who's motivated mainly by her mind, Byakuren is very much driven by how she feels. Her sadness over her brother's death leads to her chasing dark magic. Her fear of her own death leads to her converting yokai. Her guilt and inherent generosity leads to her becoming a legitimate protector of yokai. When she's rescued by her followers in Touhou 12, she's extremely happy that yokai still desire her in their world. Once she arrives in Gensokyo, she makes it her goal to help yokai and humans find enlightenment so that they may live better lives. She's driven by newfound happiness and a sense of duty. Byakuren's actions have helped many. She led Sho to becoming a key religious figure, she gave both Ichiran and Unzan a sense of belonging, and she saved Murasa from a tragic fate. Myorin Temple is named after Byakuren's brother, but her purpose in life is no longer defined by his death. Byakuren is always working to make the most of her second chance at life. Not for religious power, but to try to make the lives of everyone around her better. And that's my overview of the Touhou 12 cast. I hope this guide can help you in creating your own Touhou stories. And if you aren't a writer, I hope you got to learn more about the Myorin Temple gang. Thanks for reading/watching.